Then she started to return with her daughters-in-law from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had considered his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she had been living, she and her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on their way to go back to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back each of you to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as he has dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find security, each of you in the house of your husband." Then she kissed them, and they wept aloud. They said to her, No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Do I still have sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. Even if I had thought there was hope for me, even if I should have a husband tonight and bear sons, would you then wait until they were grown? Would you then refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, it has been far more bitter for me than for you, because the hand of the Lord has turned against me." Then they wept aloud again. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. So she said, "See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not press me to leave you, or turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die. There will I be buried. May the Lord do thus and so to me, and more as well, if even death parts me from you."
Thank you. Every time I hear that, I get goosebumps, because I think it's one of the most beautiful passages in Scripture. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die also. And may the Lord do thus and more to me, if even death separate us. It's so beautiful. Don't you think it's beautiful? It's just remarkable. The expression that of care and love and commitment that you have in these beautiful words at the opening of the book of Ruth. So let's just do what we've done previously. Let's say, who are the people involved? Ruth, Naomi, Orpah, and Ruth's sons, we had, and her husband, late husband, because all of them are late. And we know of the people of Moab. So let's just start a little bit by talking about what is unique in this particular book in the Bible. Firstly, it's very unusual to have a woman as a protagonist in the Bible. So even where you have the Gospel of Luke, which many people will say is Mary's account. Because if you read Luke's Gospel, you will read, and Mary held all these things in her heart. And you know, the Gospel is written in such a way that it's very clear that Luke must have sat down and interviewed Mary and said to her, what happened? Can you tell me a little bit? And then Mary gives her account. How do you remember? Oh, it was so important to me. I can't separate these things from my heart. I remember all these things about my son. They rest in my heart. So you can hear, if you read Luke's Gospel, you can read how Mary is being interviewed. But we still don't call it the Gospel of Mary. It's Luke's Gospel. Right? It's Luke's Gospel. Here, the book is named after the main protagonist. And the main protagonist is Ruth. And that's unique for many reasons. Not only because Ruth is a woman, but because Ruth is not an Israelite. She's not a Jew. She's a foreigner. She's a foreigner who this family from Bethlehem has allowed to marry into her. She's a Moabite. Now we know that the Moabites have an origin with Lot, don't we? Do you remember from yesterday? Where did the Moabites come from? The younger sister, who made her father Lot drunk and then got pregnant. And that was the origin of the Moabites when her son was born, Moab. So that's where the Moabites come from, and this is the people that Ruth belongs to. And again, as we saw both in the story of Tamar and in other stories that we've had, we see this linkage that if a son dies, then the woman who is being married to that son has the right to be married to the next one. So, widow inheritance of some sort, right? And we see Naomi refer to that because she says to them, I don't have any more sons. Huh? She says to Ruth and Orpah, I don't have any more sons. And even if I got married today and I felt pregnant and I had sons, are you going to wait around for 20 years so that you can marry the boys? No. Go back to your families. Return to your father and your mother's home. Many will say, and particularly for us, Renato Lings, will say to us that the book of Ruth is written in such a way, and you can see it very strongly in the Hebrew, that it mirrors Genesis chapter 2, that passage which we read in the beginning of our Bible study. In Genesis chapter 2, we have, therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother. Naomi says, go back to your father and your mother. Then it says, and he shall cleave or be joined to his wife. The word that is used in the Hebrew in Genesis chapter 2 is the word davak. And davak is this cleaving. Now, let me just explain to you what this cleaving is. It's not, shall we embrace? It's not, can we hold hands? This cleaving is almost pulling the person that you're holding to you into your own skin. It's the cleaving that your skin has to your flesh. That is davak. Because in Genesis, we are told, and the two shall become one. You remember that? So, a man shall leave his mother and his father, and he shall cleave to or be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one. That's davak. That's davak. And we find davak here in the book of Ruth as well. Because after Naomi has said to Ruth, go back to your father, go back to your mother's home. Ruth, davak, Naomi. She cleaves to Naomi in the same embrace that is described in Genesis chapter 2, and the two shall become one. The Hebrew uses the word davak. She cleaves to Naomi, and there you find these astonishing words. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, there I will die also. And may the Lord do so much and more to me, if even death separate us. Isn't that beautiful? You know, it's remarkable. And so you can see how the book of Ruth is written to be able to mirror what is described, if you like, as the first marriage in Genesis. And a man shall leave his father and mother, and he shall davak, he shall cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one. This particular passage, these vows, have been used by many people in marriage, and not just people who are same gender. No? It has been used by many people in marriage as their marriage vows. And why not? Is there ever a larger expression of love than is contained in these remarkable words uttered by Ruth? Of course, let's be realistic. Same-sex marriage is not exactly encouraged in the book of Ruth. This is not a time where same-sex marriage happens. But what we do have is a story of two remarkable women who clearly love each other. That is very clear. There's no question that Ruth loves Naomi, and that Naomi loves Ruth. And we see that later in the passage. And we also see, as the book of Ruth unfolds, how Naomi makes it possible within the cultural construct within which they are living for them to be together. So they journey back together to Bethlehem. And in Bethlehem, where they are lodging together, according again to this principle that a woman has a right to a man from the family she has married into. Naomi starts scouting around for possibilities. Who has the best to offer? And here they come upon Boaz. And Boaz is going to be the one. And by all account, he's a remarkably generous and kind man. By all account, he too is aware of the law and the inheritance rights, if you like, associated with women in a family. He acknowledges that Naomi is his family, and that by default Ruth is therefore his family because she married into the family. And we see in the book them playing out the requirements of the law. Boaz is not necessarily the man in the family who has the highest claim on Ruth, but he makes his intention clear. He says, I will marry Ruth if no one else will take her first. And the elders say, it's fine, and they get married. All of this after we have seen how generous Boaz has been, how he has allowed Ruth and Naomi to be able to live comfortably from the gleanings that they get from the field, and so on. But let us be in no doubts. The relationship between Ruth and Naomi, or Naomi and Ruth, is not one which people do not know about. They understand exactly what's going on here. And the reason for that is that when Ruth then falls pregnant by Boaz and has a son, the women from the village of Bethlehem come to Naomi and they say to her, Naomi, you have a son. You have a son. Huh? Not you have a grandson. You have a son. And there's something even more remarkable in this story. Because Ruth and her son by Boaz, Obed, suddenly appear in Matthew's Gospel. And this foreigner, this refugee, this woman who loves another woman is listed in the genealogy of Jesus. And that is such a rich story that comes to us from the Old Testament. Now, let me just be very, very clear. If you're going to sit where you're going to sit right now and you're going to look at me and you're going to say to me, so, what are you saying? Ruth and Naomi had sex?
Who knows?
I don't know. And frankly, it's none of my business. And neither is it yours. But what is clear is that there is a very deep love between these two women. And the relationship that they share is one that is acknowledged by the people at the time in the way in which things are communicated. The mere fact that the women of Bethlehem come to Naomi and say, Ruth, who loves you. Huh? Ruth, who loves you, has had a son. Now, Naomi, you have a son. And Naomi is the one who is given to name him. of it. So, do we find same-gender love in the Bible? I think absolutely we do. Do we find anything in this passage that condemns the relationship between Ruth and Naomi? No. We find acceptance, but let us also be clear that both Ruth and Naomi are operating in an environment which has a very strong patriarchal structure. And the patriarchal structure is such that inheritance will happen through the male line. It is that the male line is then so dominant that woman inheritance happens because there is a right to the male line being perpetuated. But within that structure, they negotiate and find the space for the expression of their relationship. One that then takes us right through to the time of Jesus. And let us be very clear. In Matthew's Gospel, the account of the genealogy of Jesus is a genealogy which breaks taboos and flies in the face of normality. Because the entire structure of the genealogy of Jesus follows the Jewish line. So-and-so begot so-and-so, and so-and-so begot so-and-so, and so-and-so begot so-and-so. And it's always father to son, father to son, father to son, father to son. That's a Jewish genealogy. But in Jesus' genealogy, flying in the face of convention, are 5 women who are mentioned. 5. And these 5 are really remarkable. The first of these 5 let us just list the woman. We have yes? Do you remember? Yeah? Tamar. We have Rahab. Yes? We have yes? We have and there's one more. The 5 women in Jesus' genealogy. Who are they? Tamar, who through incest carried the child of her father-in-law by playing the temple. Yes? We have Rahab, who? Right? Wasn't Rahab the sex worker on Jericho's walls? Who is Ruth? maybe. We have Bathsheba. Huh? Isn't she the one who had the bath on the roof? David, are you seeing anything? So the wife of the man who was pushed to die in battle? Yes? Uriah, yes. And then we have Mary. Or have I got anything wrong? Out of wedlock. And what does this tell you about Jesus? This is a list of all the people who we scorn. And these are the ones who are deliberately recorded as part of Jesus' genealogy. You know, you're talking about more than 30 generations. There are lots of women you can mention. But these are the ones. These are the ones that are mentioned. And what you have is this powerful statement at the beginning of Matthew's Gospel that Jesus, just through his genealogy, chooses to identify with all those who are weak and heavy laden. Come unto me, all you who are weak and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And Jesus acknowledges this even in the way in which his own genealogy is represented to us in the Gospel of Matthew. Any questions? And please, I don't speak the gospel truth. You're allowed to challenge me.